we have the debate between Law A as opening government, with Farrell as the first speaker and Rizal as the second speaker. Then from opening opposition, we have Set A with Indra as the first speaker and Puput as the second speaker. Meanwhile, in closing bench, we have Law B as the closing government, with Justicia as the first speaker and Indra as the second speaker. Lastly, from closing opposition, we have Evo B with Wisnawati as the first speaker and Asad as the second speaker. The adjudicators for today are Mr. Surya, Mr. Andre, Mr. Purni, and Mr. Lucia. The motion for this debate is the House believes that the United States will cast all diplomatic and military operation in the Middle East.
Now, let's start the debate. I call for the Speaker of Prime Minister, Mr. Farrell. The time is yours.
As a country that holds the liberal democratic, which have an obligation to keep the peace among the world, U.S. already spread their military inside the Middle East under the issue of terrorism and such. But the biggest missions for the diplomatic and military, what they want to create a bargaining towards the diplomatic, but we believe it is already failed, and that's why they fly their forces towards the Middle East to settle this down. And what happened recently under Glasgow right now? Now, U.S. already creating a proclaim towards the world that ISIS already being shut down nowadays. And the biggest reason why they put this kind of diplomatic and military operation inside the Middle East to settle this kind of down. So when actually the conditions of the Middle East are stable because there is now ISIS and such, we believe as an opening government, we state that there is no kind of urgencies and fundamental reasons why U.S. should continue his diplomatic and military. What we're gonna prove to you today, Mr. and Mrs. Speakers, that why when we still continue the diplomatic and military operation inside the Middle East will counterproductive to the purpose of the U.S. to promoting democracy inside it, and second of all, why it will hamper the process of incumbent government to continue his political purpose in the next election, which is Donald Trump. Okay, let's jump to the first argument. Why it will be counterproductive, Mr. Speakers? Because we believe that ISIS is already beaten. It is still be continuous. The intervention will become too far, Mr. Speaker. Why? Because the people in the Middle East are skeptical, inherently skeptical with the West. Because they believe the causes of the terrorism is being borne by the U.S. itself. Now they are blaming them and trying to occupy them through the diplomatic and military. But it's okay for us, for the Middle East, to accept them, to settle. It is form of his liability as the U.S. to settle this down. But if it is already settled down, they already proclaimed that ISIS, they proclaimed to the world ISIS already being beaten. Why we still continue this? So they will counterproductively spreading the ideas of liberal democratic countries is try to create stable countries and such, because in the end what being seen by Middle East as this kind of country full of interest towards the Middle East, even prolonging the Cold War. That's why we're standing as the opening government. We want to stop this, because we believe that why should diplomatic and military? We say the military reasons we've done with that, and diplomatic, because we believe that we already achieved our goal. We promoting to the Middle East that the liberal democratic country is the best form of the countries that can settle you down, not the communist, not another things that this democratic will inside them. So that's why we prove to you that there is no kind of urgencies. So there is no urgencies, there is no right, because we believe as peacekeeping we have to maintain peace, but it is not should not be counterproductive and not work as it is proposed. So secondly, why it is good as a political strategy for incumbent government. We see that our condition right now, what Trump promises towards his follower or his voters is that he wants to continue building the wall of the Mexico to stop the immigrant, because it is the biggest issues inside the U.S. right now, about job field, about the problem of collecting the immigrant. So if he achieved, they can sway the voter. This is the interest, Mr. Speaker. Why this argument is important? Because what Donald Trump proposes to the parliament is being refused to continue this kind of wall. Why? Under the reason of what? Under the reason of national budget. We believe that national budget of U.S. is being spent much for the military operation, Mr. Speaker. If we still continues under no urgencies, it will be in vain. And then that we can change this kind of allocation. We can allocate this towards a national interest, which is bring the walls and show the consistency of a candidate towards the own citizen. And this is important to continue his regime with creating that America should always be the first and sole powerful countries inside this world. And if Donald Trump achieve this, pulling the diplomatic and military spend will be can be goes to this wall and can sway the another voters, people, especially those in the gray area, to choose Donald Trump right now. Why this idea is really important for the current government. So this is the best thing. Also to continue the proposal of United States as a peacekeeper. Also back to the first that he still can continuing another agenda later if he can be voted or choose again as the elected government in the next elections. So that's why we believe number one, there is no such of urgencies to continue this kind of diplomatic and military operations, because politically we already proved to the world that liberal democratic country could solve the Middle East problem, and military operations to change the perspective on how they only have an interest to maintain the peace inside the Middle East. And then secondly, why this good strategy as the incumbent government to continue his program and sway the people in the area to choose them in the next elections. That's why opposition side of the House to prove why there is still an urgency inside of Middle East to continue the diplomatic and military. Well, he already proclaimed that we already win towards the ISIS with the biggest problem of democracies and weapon mass destructive and such. And second, why it is also not good for the next political strategy if they want to be elected next time. That's why we propose this motion. Thank you.
what we want as an opposition, we think we have the same goals, we want to keep the peace, but the way we achieve the peace is different. If you say that we should cease all of our diplomatic and military, then we stay right here, that we should keep empowering them, we should keep interfere, and that's how we will create a peace, because we do believe that actually peace only be reached when there is a balancing power in that kind of war. But first, let me respond to the government statement. First, they believe that it is counterproductive and it is political strategy. But ladies and gentlemen, counterproductive will not happen, because why? Because first, when you say that intervention will go too far, I think the existence of U.S., the military, army, and the diplomacy stands them to be the third party of this kind of problem. Because why? Because the war that happened in Middle East is unique. They have different values. They don't work for natural research. No, they don't work because they have the feeling that our race are better, and we fight for our, let's say, with this kind of things is unique, and the only one who can solve them is U.S. Ladies and gentlemen. If U.S. take away that kind of support, it means you let them to solve their problem, while they cannot, because this is the unique problem. But secondly, it is political strategy, because right now U.S. problematic and so forth and so on. But I think when you want to solve your own problematic, and if you want to if you want to win the election, it means you have to spread the narrative that will empower all of the international community, or probably another country, to support you, which means that actually, if they want the politics strategy, it will happen in our side, that I will explain later. So, move on to my argument. I will explain you about two things that actually it will beneficiary for US and for the Middle East if we continue to interfere in them. And secondly, the comparative if we should take fight in this kind of problem issue. The first, beneficiary. We do believe that actually it will be beneficial for the beneficial will be tangible, and it will be beneficial for both sides, because first, in terms of safety, if we want to keep peace, if we want to safety only happen in two kind of way. First, if the agreement is succeed, even if when the agreement fails, there is the balancing power that I thought since the very first time. If they say that actually agreement or diplomatic way has a result, then we need to make sure that the balancing power is there, ladies and gentlemen. No, if the U.S. stands there, the interest of U.S. is to keep the peace. It means they will not interfere. They will not have a tendency to stay on the winning side, because their interest is keeping peace. So the balancing power is equal, because I think I told you that because they have the unique value, and we need to keep it balanced so they can fix their problem. Even if that you say that actually US will do the harm for the Middle East, we think in the end of the day the harm will end at the same time when the problem is solved. So let's assume that yes, it probably will hurt the Middle East, but in the end of the day, when the war is failed, the US will get the beneficiary. Why? Because when we succeed to end the war, right, then it means you have feedback to us. You need to keep your feedback. That's simply how the US will get the beneficiary and the Middle East get the beneficiary. The beneficiary that the Middle East will have is they will end their war by the help from US as the third party, because let's say that US is neutral, even if because their interest is to keeping peace, and US also will have the beneficiary in the longer term. Because why? Because the Middle East have feedback, has to feedback to us that you need to pay what we already give you, such as you give us natural research in diplomatic ways, you keep our diplomatic, and we have international connection, and so forth and so on. But secondly, comparative that we will take fight or we will interpret. Yes, it won't be easy, ladies and gentlemen. There will be a lot of bloodshed, there will be a lot of sacrificing people, but I think this is worthy to pursue, ladies and gentlemen, because why? When the US try to interpret, it will seek for alliance, because when the US, the one who, let's say, peacekeeper, you interfere to this kind of things, it means that you seek for alliance. Because why? Because you spread the narrative that you want to have the war. You don't want the war to happen. That's why we help you. We don't have any interfere. That's why it will create the interest for another international. No, after my argument, it will create another international connection to join you, US to help end the war. It's not only war in the Middle East, but also war in another area. Because why? Because you know that we cannot see the people we cannot see the people hating each other, torturing each other, bombing each other. That's why I actually believe that when the US try to interfere after the movement, when the US try to interfere this kind of thing, it creates the narrative that we want to get the war. We don't want to support this kind of war. We want to end it, even when we have to sacrifice the current status quo. What's happening in opening?
So you say that there is no kind of this anymore. We believe that the source of the war is terrorism already over. The intervention will go too far, will backlash. That it will democratic nation will always respect the jurisdictions and another governments and no more too much interventions if the source of problem already solved. So how do you respond to that?
Then it will be simple. If you say that it will be going too far, then if we choose don't care to this kind of problem, there is no guarantee also that it will be solved like right now. It means that we do believe that actually it will go too far only when you take out from this case. Because why? Because I told you that US as the third party, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot solve this kind of problem because this kind of problem, and the one who can do that is this US who don't have that kind of sentiment that exists in that war. So I think that your POI is already false. So by saying that actually it will be beneficial for both of sides, and the comparative is yes, we assume it, we accept that actually it will be hard, but in the end of the day, if we succeed to this, if we succeed to this kind of value, because why is it more likely to happen? Because we will seek alliance and we will stop this kind of war. We think that it will be worth it for us to sacrifice the status quo even for the long term. That's all from me. We back to oppose.
Lucinda has spent 6 minutes 52 seconds. Now let's move to the next speaker, Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Rizal. The time is yours.
The idea of liberal democratic countries, it means that you will respecting jurisdiction for each nation. It means that you will respecting their own government, and we will support their way to achieve the stability in their own countries. The first one, if they believe that the opening opposition brought the idea of the third party can also interfere. But in here, we believe that the third party in here is also a wrong move to begin with. Because of what? Because the first time the US coming in the Middle East, the promise of US is to solving the problem, which is the terrorism. And now for the status quo, then also the opening opposition didn't even touch about it. This ISIS already beaten by our army. It means that our promises is already we already answer our promises toward those countries. It means that it's now the time for Middle East to build their own nation, and we need to respect it because we don't have any interest anymore. We don't have any urgencies to be in the Middle East to begin with. It means if we let this the idea of third party that brought by the opening opposition, it means that we will violence the diplomatic in here. It means that we will spread the stigma that Middle East cannot build their own country. It means that we also say that the Middle East has no power. They have no power to build their own country because they still need our help. Now, we want to talk to you why US need to withdraw all of them. Before that, yeah.
I think when you say that Middle East cannot build their own country, it will be spreading the narrative that good because you are having the one who cannot do that.
I don't really know what you're talking about in here, but the thing is, when you keep the helping hand, it means that you will always say that they need our help. I mean that you underestimate their power in here, in the fact that their problem already solved by our army. So we don't see any urgency in here. Now, in here, when they're always talking about the peace and we need to keep the peace in here, the parameter of peace is how is there is no military operation. It means if we still keep those military in the Middle East, it means that there will be a problem that we need to be solved by our army. And in here, it means that their proposal about the peacekeeper is will never be solved because they always want to keep our army in here, and they believe there will always be a problem that we need to prevent before it's coming big. That's why in here we are not the government. The government proposal will not only talk about how we can keep the peacemaker and our position in this world as the peacemaker, but we also have another interest. It means that the US it's time for US to focus on our own nation interest. Why? Because we also know that the political promises is something that you need to fulfill at the very first place, because it is the promises towards your own citizen. It's the first thing that you need to do as a government to fulfill those promises, what our society demands at this time. And that's why the budgeting is really important things when we see that our military consume a lot of money in here. It means that when we withdraw all of the military, it means that those budgeting we can calculate again, and we can think about how the Trump will fulfill his promises about the wall of Mexico, for the example. That's why when the focus of US right now is enough for interfere in another nation problem, and now we need to back to our focus. It is to build our own nation, and the second layer is why we need to take the diplomacy in here, because we are not only talking about the military, but we also talking about the diplomacy. The first thing that you need to know about the idea of why we take those diplomacy and military in the Middle East is when the historically things. And we, as the winner of the World War II and the Cold War, there is needs for us to be in the specific area to spread our ideology of our nation. And that's why at this point, when we believe that liberalism, democratic country, we already spread to them that this is a good ideology to implement in your country. It's already enough for them to be in there, and that's why it's time for them to gain their own way to achieve the stability in the country. And even more, this kind of action taken by the US will also erase all the stigma from another country that thinks that US will always interfere whatever your problem is at the first place, ladies and gentlemen, because they always see that US is in every single problem in this world. It means when we proud to take our army and diplomacy, it means that we prove to the world that we are interfere their problem, not because we want something like we are using their condition to our profit, but in here we purely want to protect them. We want to purely to keep the peace and everything about it. So that's why when we already achieve the peace, it means that we don't have to take our move to be too far in here. And that's why the intervention of US will not be going too far, and by this action we will prove to the world that US in here also have their own focus, but even if we have our own focus, we still can help those countries, in this case the Middle East. Thank you.
Mr. Risa has spent 7 minutes. Now let's move to the next speaker, Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Ms. Puput. The time is yours.
East is not important, that there is not such a big deal that US should intervene them to be allowed be having a diplomatic office or even military operation in there. But we know that there is a war, there is a poverty in there, that US should be interfere in them, because you know that US cannot only be seeing them standing there doing nothing, even they are the powerful country in the world right now. And the clarification about it, they said that the third party cannot be achieved because there will be third party will be evil or so on. But we understand that you need another party, the third party, if you cannot solve your own problem. And in here, US is the only one right now that having so much connection, even if you cannot. Even if you don't want the US to be interview you too much, US can be on becoming a diplomatic agreement in there. And that's why US should be in there at the very first time and so on. And saying that they say about that US should focus on their own state, but the fact is US is the only country right now that big enough to be having even the budget for the military operation for this kind of my Middle East problem is US already having it in their own budgeting taxing. Every taxing by the society in US having a budget going to be a military operation, and this kind of thing that US also having the interest to be a peacekeeper, to be not doing nothing even you are strong enough. And they said about also said the wall of the Mexico or anything, but the thing is that the Trump right now having the wall of the Mexico itself is they're having such a interest to his country. Like Trump only protecting their own country, but the thing is that so many people and society against Trump, because even the US society itself thinking that the other people should be coming to US, and that kind of thing we don't want to happen, because the society in the US itself know that the US can provide to be the helper in this world. That's why we stand in here. We wanted this world, this kind of thing, this kind of problem in Middle East should be ended as fast as possible. By this kind of thing, I want to give you two arguments. First, in the end of the day, in the world need a peace, and they could only be get by the powerful states. The powerful state in here means that the state that no longer suffer for the first basic need like food or something fundamental, like in the Middle East state is doing, like in the US, even the US having a position when they are empowered enough, wealth enough to such as a big thing like NASA, military operation, and so on. So the condition of the US itself already having a powerful enough to help this problem. And by giving the example itself, by giving a diplomatic ways, weapon, aid, and so on, and this kind of help that we want to be in there, in the Middle East itself. And the conflict, even there will be contradiction within the society of the Middle East itself. They're never having another option, because the US itself is the only way to giving an opportunity to them to be ending this problem. And secondly, about the international connection, US having such a huge impact in international world, like such as UN having United Nations, ILO, and anything that based on US, the office itself in US and so on. If they're starting this organization, because they're having a big connection to the world. If they are need to another perspective from US, like what I say, they can also having this connection with US. For the example itself, you can take a look on North Korea and South Korea. The North Korea is without US diplomatic, right? And the South Korea with diplomatic with the US itself. The welfare between North Korea and South Korea, you can see it's so much different. The welfare in South Korea is much more in there. They're even that they're having a mistake without diplomatic with the US itself. Now the North Korea itself getting closer with the US itself. And because of the thing, if you are not having connection with US, you will also be going to be going to be not close with other country itself. Even Arab Saudi is getting closer with US now, with letting the woman steering their car and so on. And this kind of thing with what we want, because in the end of the day, if the middle step cannot achieve what they want, US we can be providing them, because all around the world that understand that USD is now having such a good impact in them. In the long term effect, that the Middle East, even if they are having such a long problem, like in the Israel and Palestine, you can see there is so much problem in there. But US is having more tendency, you can see, in the Israel, because the US understand that the Israel is already afford the agreement to Palestine itself to having a peace agreement, but they don't want to do that. But the US still going in there, because the US understand that there is a way to be these two worlds having such agreement in the end of the day. But even if the US having left the Israel and Palestine alone, there will be such a huge impact. The victim also will be getting bigger. Like you having no eggs, no food or anything. Like in the Venezuela itself, you can see US not interfering in there, because the many such a thing also. But without US, you can see the Venezuela victim also getting high price in the end of the day. That's why US in the end of the day should be the one who be going to in the Middle East also. Thank you.
Ms. Puput has spent 7 minutes and 28 seconds. Now let's move to the next speaker, member for the government, Ms. Justicia. So that is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, the opposition of the House is clarifying on how, in the war, it take over a powerful state such as the United States of America should interfere, ladies and gentlemen. A powerful state like the United States of America cannot just sit there and let that happen, ladies and gentlemen. But of course, we believe it is not, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, because in the status quo, we access a United Nations, ladies and gentlemen. United Nations Security Council, and it is peacekeeper, ladies and gentlemen. And we believe in here that it is the right party to interfere in such a wartime compared to the US, which is the same sovereign country as country in the Middle East itself, ladies and gentlemen. 2 points of rebuttal. First, they believe that the world with peace and a powerful state to interfere to maintain the peace itself, ladies and gentlemen. But they believe it is not because of what? Because yes, United States of America is still the same as just other country itself. United States is the same because it is the same of sovereign country, ladies and gentlemen. They still have their own inside problem, they still have his own problem, they still suffering and such as and etc. And we believe in here the right party to interfere is the United Nations compared to the US, ladies and gentlemen. Because that we see in the government shutdown that happened in January itself, it proves you that they still suffer, they still have their own problem, and they should instead focus on that compared to interfering on the problem in the Middle East itself, ladies and gentlemen. Second rebuttal, they are bringing the case about the South and North Korea, ladies and gentlemen, and they are blaming the US because the suffering happened in the North Korea itself, ladies and gentlemen. But let's see, the thing here, the way the South Korea has been split, it is because the Cold War happened between the Russia and the United States of America, ladies and gentlemen. The both of parties keep trying to spread their influence between those two areas in the one one nation, and that makes those two countries become split, and that's proof to you. Interfering of the sovereign nation means harm rather than good itself, ladies and gentlemen. And jump to my stance goal and what is the difference between our team? Because our stand here, we want US to kiss all the democratic country because they are not the right party to do it, ladies and gentlemen. And our goal here is we want to decrease the tension inside the Middle East, and we want to stop triggering another political point to join and stop triggering a bigger one to be happen in the future, ladies and gentlemen. What is the difference between OG and CP? Because we as the OG, we want to accept power that should be in the Middle East, ladies and gentlemen. Jump to my very first argument, which is why US should respect the border of the sovereign nation. Because we believe here there is exists a parameter of intervention, ladies and gentlemen. Because if US really want to maintain the peace in the very first place, but exists a peacekeeper under the United Nations, and that is the right party to interfere compared to US, ladies and gentlemen. So all the things that US do is in the Middle East is not necessary, because it could have been done with a rightful party, which is a United Nations itself, ladies and gentlemen. So US should back off and let do its rightful job, which is one of its agenda, what is maintaining the peace itself, ladies and gentlemen. And what US do instead here, we believe that it is prolonging the problem because like what other nation, of course, US has its own agenda, which is a political movement, ladies and gentlemen. Because like what others before, the US is a sovereign, is the same also is the sovereign country, and the right party to interfere is the UN. Because of what? Because United Nations is a group of other countries exist. They are respecting its own territory. They are respecting its own. They have inside the group, and they will provide you the best mechanism to maintain the peace, because there will be a beginning, and there will be no political motive towards it. Instead of sovereign nation do the job, ladies and gentlemen. And we believe here the parameter of intervention itself is by a country that have no political intervention that can prolong the conflict. As I will explain you later why US have political intentions. And as long as the political goal is not complete yet, a country should not interfere with other countries' business, ladies and gentlemen. We are all very aware that US has the agenda which is to spread the democracy, ladies and gentlemen. But we believe here that democracy is not suitable for our circumstances, for our nation. Middle East has its own governmental system, okay? and it is okay. So let them be, and not forcing some ideology that is not suitable for them, ladies and gentlemen. Because all that happen right now is US have agenda to keep the peace, and instead they will spread the idea of democracy, and instead they will worsening the condition happen. Like look at the Yemen and the Syria, ladies and gentlemen. And it is unfortunate because political agenda the US foreign policy that bring greater harm than benefit, ladies and gentlemen. Because United States trying to get close to Suharto on the Cold War itself, and United States try to embargo in Cuba because it is not in line with its political agenda, ladies and gentlemen. Because United States have motive, they have motive which is of democracy and oil, ladies and gentlemen. They need oil so much and the main source of oil itself happen in the Middle East. So let's see, US trying to get close to Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, because when it is the ideology is dramatically different within the US, and they maintain to get closer relation with the US because they still need the oil, ladies and gentlemen. Even though the US already have oil, of course it is not enough to fulfill the demand, ladies and gentlemen. And we believe that there exists a Marshall Plan, ladies and gentlemen. Marshall Plan means that economic injection towards US to the West Europe to prevent them to get help to get economic help coming from the Russia, ladies and gentlemen. Because of what? Because they have a political agenda which is to spread the idea of democracy. And And we believe that the thing also happened in the Middle East area, ladies and gentlemen. They keep maintaining to interfere because they have a certain motive, which is first oil and democracy. And the Israel itself, we believe that they are moving the capital of Israel to the Jerusalem because they have the same political motive, which is they want to maintain the relationship between Israel and the U.S. And it proves you how U.S. agenda, it is poorly because of U.S. agenda. Instead of keeping the peace here, we are very proud to propose.
Justicia has spent 7 minutes, 27 seconds. Now let's move to the next speaker, member for the opposition. Business Party, the time is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, what have already happened in this debate, they just talk about the democracy, but they never explain to you how the democracy exists from the society in Middle East. We will explain about the Arab Spring, which is Arab Spring itself is the realization of the Middle East society that democracy is important. And what Arab Spring is the realization of the Middle East of the society that they realize that democracy is important. But in this case, the way to pursuing democracy happen in that country is hampered by the terrorists itself, ladies and gentlemen. So I will explain in my argument why the urgency of U.S. to interfere by diplomatic and military operation in Middle East. And before we going to my argument, I will show to you our goal is as the U.S. Our goal is spreading the democracy itself and combat the terrorism itself. And move to first argument why the U.S. should do diplomatic and military operation in the Middle East. First, because U.S. have the same interest with what already risen up in the society in Middle East, that they want democracy, and the U.S. have historically know about the democracy and about the founding of democracy itself. So when the U.S. have interest to help the society in the Middle East, they want to pursue democracy. What makes democracy in Middle East hampered? Because there is terrorism that want they want to make Islamic State, ladies and gentlemen. Not only Islamic State in their country, but they also spread Islamic State concept to other countries, ladies and gentlemen. What make the U.S. should interfere them, interfere this case, ladies and gentlemen. I will give some example is in the Libya, ladies and gentlemen. In the Libya itself, when the society in the Libya have realized the importance of democracy, but because there is hampering from terrorists, from the government itself, so there is a war inside the Libya itself, which is if the U.S. doesn't interfere, will make it never be ended. But in the reality, the U.S. helped the Libya itself to rise up the democracy. So we know the fact that Libya now, the democracy in Libya is rising up step by step because the interference of the US itself. It shows to you that US is success to help a society in the Middle East to reach the democracy, ladies and gentlemen. And also, there is many terrorism that affiliate each other, like Hamas in Palestine, Hezbollah, and Lebanon. And also, as you know, like Kurdistan that spread to the Turkey itself. It shows to you that if the US have no further change all the diplomatic and military operation, the ideology of democracy itself is harming, ladies and gentlemen, harming, and you know that as superpower country, the US will do whatever the ideology of democracy is spread. So this is the way to keep people realize about the democracy itself. And okay, even if in the US there is so many problems inside the country, why it's okay for the US to interfere in the Middle East? Why? Because when the US not interfere, the problem is not come from the inside country, but also from outside the country itself, ladies and gentlemen. So the US will have two problems that burdening inside and outside, ladies and gentlemen, because the US in status quo have already have effort to tackle the problem outside the country, but when they stop it, they just focus on inside the country. The worst case is when the terrorist is success to make to shape the ideology, to make Islamic State that they will the terrorist itself will take further action to against US in against US. It is the worst case. And also, why the UN why even if there is a UN, why the UN cannot handle it? Because the UN is just disrespect whatever your country you apply democracy or not. The UN is respect, but so the UN cannot handle it. So as the US have a big interest of democracy, we cannot the US cannot depend on the US itself to split the democracy and when the US give helping the other country, it's give benefit for the US because they will spread the democracy in the Middle East, which is we know Middle East is inherent with the radical extremists. So we oppose this motion.
Mrs. Nawati has spent 7 minutes and 43 seconds. Now let's move to the next speaker. Dr. Mungkin, Ms. Izzat, that is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, three responses for our opponent. The first is they are still glorifying the trustworthy issue from the Middle East society toward the USA. Ladies and gentlemen, they neglect the status quo that USA creates such kind of the bloody war, the
immigrant, and then also any of the damaging, ladies and gentlemen. And then I'm going to prove to you that US is the one that need to take the responsibility of the immigrant that created by them, ladies and gentlemen. But under the status quo, the US itself didn't want to take this kind of the immigrant, ladies and gentlemen. The proof is that it's the Mexico border that created by the Trump, and then the Trump is until shut down the government in the USA itself, ladies and gentlemen. Even more, ladies and gentlemen, we also believing that this kind of the immigrant is triggered the UNHCR to pay for the Turkey to take this kind of the immigrant, ladies and gentlemen, and then they pay for the Turkey for some dollars, ladies and gentlemen. We are believing that US didn't want to take this kind of responsibility, but how can the opponent still want to glorify this kind of the US agenda? Second, ladies and gentlemen, if the status quo is about the US fight for the Syria region, which leaves the capital in the Syria itself still safe, ladies and gentlemen, it means that US is attack ISIS by sacrificing the civil society, and we don't think it is okay, ladies and gentlemen. And then to make this kind of society have no more safe haven inside of their country. This different concern has proved to you that US intention is to maintain the good relationship with the Bashar al-Assad because they are because the relation background, ladies and gentlemen, and then they're not going to attack the Bashar al-Assad itself. Ladies and gentlemen, we are believing this is wrong. And then the welfare, one response for the practical idea coming from the opponent is about the welfare that just need democracy to back up, ladies and gentlemen. We are believing as China, this is the communist nation that still keep their welfare even they are communist, ladies and gentlemen. One clashes under this debate. The first is whether or not this proposal going to bring the greater harm than good. Ladies and gentlemen, we are believing that our opponents are debating under their exclusivity goal and what's that they do not guarantee something, ladies and gentlemen. And we believe they have failed to prove this kind of thing to you, ladies and gentlemen. We are believing first when they are keep talking about they need more alliances to come to the US itself. They need more of the party to come to the US itself, ladies and gentlemen. What we didn't need this kind of the proposal, ladies and gentlemen, because it's going to just increase the tension inside of the Middle East itself, ladies and gentlemen. What we want is in here is to decrease this kind of intention with withdrawal of the US itself, ladies and gentlemen. Second, if they're still glorifying what the balancing power is needed for this kind of the war, ladies and gentlemen, we say no, because balancing power idea is needed only for the start of war that need to be solved as soon as possible, ladies and gentlemen. That war that was in the first infection, ladies and gentlemen, because we are believing under the status quo, the Middle East problem is firing up in the 20th century, ladies and gentlemen, back then. And then under the status quo, what they need is to solve it, ladies and gentlemen, not to prolong this kind of the problem. And then, for example, if they want to bring this kind of the idea toward a war, ladies and gentlemen, let them use this kind of the idea toward the vertical conflict between, for example, Muslim society in Uyghur with their government, or the Rohingya between the Burmese government that need this kind of the proposal so much, ladies and gentlemen. So not for the civil war in the Middle East itself. What they need is not the backup coming from the superpower country. That's why it will not benefiting for the party that involved under this kind of the war, like what our opening opposition glorify to you. Third, ladies and gentlemen, when they are actually also still glorifying that the benefit is for the both of sides, how can you want to guarantee that the both of the belligerent can win if you want to add some more belligerent? Ladies and gentlemen, we are believing that even it will trigger so much of the party to deal with this kind of the war, ladies and gentlemen. You will never help the Middle East society when you didn't know their demand, ladies and gentlemen. They demand of the stopping of the war itself, blood and scream and so on and so forth. Bring you the more possibility of existence of the another war, ladies and gentlemen. Even if you still want to uphold those both of sides, ladies and gentlemen, if it's by the withdrawal from the place you do not belong to, ladies and gentlemen, this war is a civil war, not a political war, ladies and gentlemen. Since you still want to glorify US, since our opponent also still glorifying that US still spread their democracy ideology. For example, they bring the case from the South Korea, even make it be that the US can make this South Korea even bigger and more welfare country. That's why this kind of the agenda, international relation agenda coming from US, it still exists. That's why we didn't want this kind of the
East, ladies and gentlemen, yes, they need US because they are one ideology with this democratic, ladies and gentlemen. What the Middle East need is the option of US to withdraw from the war itself, that avoid that this kind of thing will have the possibility to avoid Vladimir Putin to also this kind of the things will actually trigger the Vladimir Putin to also shut down their military, ladies and gentlemen. When the Middle East conflict is actually also not firing up again. So first, ladies and gentlemen, weakness is coming from our opponent is first they even worsening the condition inside the Middle East. Second, they never emphasize. They always emphasize the superpower country to abuse their power, ladies and gentlemen, by existing of these cases. Compared to our side, we want to stop this kind of thing that will decrease tension inside and it will glorify the demand of the Middle East society itself. Second, we glorify the idea of the US to keep their foreign policy in the different domain, ladies and gentlemen. That's why this point goes to our team, and we are believing their agenda to make this demand of the social society inside the Middle East is not going to be happen. And then also, ladies and gentlemen, we have provided the UN peacekeeper as the proposal if they want to still make this war actually fixed as soon as possible. So I challenge the closing opposition to answer it, ladies and gentlemen, why the US is just the only right actor in this motion. That's why we want US to cease and let the Middle East solve their cases first.
So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to answer the question from the wing of the government. They said that how the US is justified to solve the problem because of what? Because US is not only because of the superpower itself, but also the US is like a role model of the another country, ladies and gentlemen. But we believe that if the US is intervening in the Middle East, that means that another country should aware of the problem in the Middle East country itself, and it's not come from the what is war itself or military itself, but the diplomacy way or giving aid to this country itself, because we believe that this country is not have enough power to develop their own country because it's have a lot of war, post-war effect. That means that they need to more support from the other country, then more aid for develop their country. We believe that this kind helping and prolonging the diplomacy from the US can help the people of the Middle East can develop themselves, ladies and gentlemen. And also they said that the causing of the opposition said that this kind of motion, this kind of condition, it can create worsening the condition. They say that the diplomacy and military intervene to the Middle East is worsening the condition itself in the Middle East itself. But we believe how it can create those kind of things. So if their cases is right, so we believe that with the intervention of the US in the ISIS, that means the ISIS is already conquered the Syria itself. But we believe that the ISIS defeated because the intervening of the US government in the Syria itself, ladies and gentlemen. And also they said that their kind of proposal can help the US to know and more aware of the Bashar al-Assad itself. But we believe that our proposal is more tangible to help the people of the Syria to have the democracy itself, ladies and gentlemen. Because of what? Because when the people of the when the America help the people of the people of the Syria, the people of the Syria will be thankfully to the US government itself, so that the people of Syria will be accepted any kind of help from the US itself. Because of what? Because characteristic of Arab, they have a Western country because they believe that Western country is make the world itself. But we believe that in this status quo right now, US is not worsening the condition but helping them to solve the problem itself. And also they say that this kind of proposal are helping the Middle East create a bloody war and threaten immigrant etc. We believe that it's not because of the United States itself. We believe that another country that not intervened by the United States itself, it's already there is a bloody war and immigrant itself. For example, like in the Mexico, in the Venezuela, in the Mexico, like there's a lot of illegal immigrants that go to the US, not because of the intervention of the US, but the condition of the country itself. And also the bloody war is not come from the intervention of the government, because, for example, like in the Burma, that the problem it's not come from the US, but from the internal of the country itself, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to clarify that this kind of our proposal it's still urgent because of what? Because the purpose of the United States to intervene is to create peace by democracy. So they said that this kind of problem should be solved by the UN. It's not all because of what? Because UN not make the country is democratic, but let them be what they want to be. For example, if the UN solve the problem in this area, the UN will be like, oh, your area you want to be what is your matter, not ours. But in the status quo now, the people of the government of the United States want to create this by implementing democracy in those of country, ladies and gentlemen. And also, they said that this kind of action is not promise of the government to solve the problem in the Syria itself, ladies and gentlemen. Like the said that this kind of thing is not promise of the government of the US itself. But we believe that the promise of the government is the promise of the US itself is to create democracy in the Syria itself. It's come not from the government, but not come from the people itself, ladies and gentlemen. And if the promise is to stop the ISIS, it's not only exclusive for the US, but also it's also the purpose of the Russia itself, ladies and gentlemen. But we believe that exclusivity to stop problem in the Syria is to help the people in the Syria to develop democracy itself. Like my previous speaker said, that a lot of Arab Spring country, they want to create democracy system in their country, but there's a lot of war and problem because there's a lot of rebellion. There's a lot of people who believe that the Islamic way or Islamic state is better rather than Islamic country is better rather than the democratic Islam. But we believe that in the United States want the Arab Spring, Arab country to feel and to enjoy the democracy itself, to pursue the peace that our government want. And also, the Kafarel say that if we too much intervening into the other country, that means we will be left behind our problem like creating wall and etc. And we believe that creating wall itself is problematic problem, ladies and gentlemen, and will not bring any good to the voters itself in the United States itself, ladies and gentlemen. Because of what? Because there is a lot of people that is questioning what is the meaning of the wall itself, what is this kind of thing. But we believe that if we, as the United States government, still focusing on the problem in the Middle East, that means that we are as the guardian angel of the Middle East. That means that the stigma of the Arabs itself will be decreased to our country, and also we can create a better voters for the Trump presidency itself, ladies and gentlemen. And also they say that this kind of action can create and worsening the stigma in the school. But we believe that the school in the stigma itself it's happen even if the America is not intervene itself. For example, like in because the character of people in Arab is hate the American itself. So we believe that by creating diplomatic and the guardian angel of the Middle East, we can also decrease the stigma itself. So that's why we against this motion. Thank you.